On November 11, 2014, the City of Federal Way dedicated a 60-foot flagpole and large flag on South 320th Street. To honor our nation's veterans, the downtown section of South 320th Street was renamed to Veterans Way. Let's take a look at the installation of the flagpole on October 22nd. Then we'll join the community's Veterans Day celebration, held November 11th at 11 a.m. in downtown Federal Way.
We're standing in the middle of 320th on this island that we have put down brand new landscaping, and right behind me we are putting together a 67-foot flagpole. 7 feet of it is going to go on the ground, and 60 feet from the ground we're going to hoist up a flag that's going to be 12 foot by 18 feet. And this is absolutely a fantastic thing for the City of Federal Way. It's really exciting. They let me take the sledgehammer and pound 2 of the sections together for our flagpole. But once this flagpole goes in, it'll be a permanent part of the landscape of this community. We're going to raise this flag, and it's going to really make history in this community.
Over 1,000 Federal Way residents came to downtown Federal Way to celebrate a historic Veterans Day event and ceremony. Mayor Jim Ferrell and the City Council welcomed veterans, residents, and special guests U.S. Senator Patty Murray and King County Council member Pete Von Reichbauer as we raised a 15 by 25-foot American flag on the downtown's new 60-foot flagpole and renamed the downtown segment of South 320th Street to Veterans Way.
I'd like all the United States veterans to stand up, please. Would you all please stand, raise your hand? This day is for you. On behalf of the people of the City of Federal Way, thank you so much for your service. I'd also like to thank, we've got some very special guests with us today. We have United States Senator Patty Murray. She'll be addressing the crowd in a few moments. We've got our friend and King County Councilmember Pete Von Reichbauer. To paraphrase, John F. Kennedy once said that a nation reveals itself not only by the men and women it produces, but by those it honors, those it remembers. We gather on Veterans Day because we have a duty to remember those who have served, but not just because we have to, but because we are truly grateful for their service. We are grateful because we know that the America that we have today stands on the proud shoulders of millions of brave and resolute men and women. The measure of our gratitude is witnessed by this amazing group with us today. From Senator Patty Murray, one of the leading champions on veterans issues in this country, to our friend and King County Councilman Pete Von Reichbauer, who has served this community for decades, your City Council, and all your elected officials. Most importantly, that group also includes veterans from all walks of life and this large crowd here today to say thank you to our veterans. Today, we're memorializing our gratitude in a lasting and prominent way. We are remaking the look of one of Western Washington's busiest thoroughfare with a 60-foot gleaming white flagpole, a 15 by 25-foot flag, 30 street flags, and a sign that will proclaim our street's honorary name as Veterans Way. I'd like to thank Bob Kellogg. Bob, would you please stand, please? Bob Kellogg, a longtime resident, friend, and community volunteer for creating this vision. You know, Bob and I met several months ago in my office, and when he first came up with this idea, I said, Bob, are you sure about this? And when he came up with the idea of the Veterans Way and the flags, all of a sudden, to do it, the two of us together in my office had this vision, and together with the council, we made this a reality. And now, forever, when people either get off the freeway for the first time visiting Federal Way, or you're coming home to your home, or people are coming into the city for the very first time, they're going to be greeted. The veterans and just the regular citizens of this community, this region, this state, will proudly see Old Glory standing on this 60-foot flagpole as a memorial to those who have served, those yet to serve, and those who have sacrificed the last full measure of devotion. It's a great day. Veterans Day is recognized as November 11th because of the end of the Great War. And we lost 117,000 Americans with other 204,000 casualties in that war. But we also started at 11 a.m. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a true history buff. That Great War, the war at the time that was said to have ended all, the war to end all wars, ended at 11 a.m. on the 11th month on the 11th day. We memorialize that day and what was originally known as Armistice Day. That's why we started the event at 11 a.m. in honor of the history of this day and what it represents. President Kennedy said that a nation reveals itself by how it remembers its veterans. That's true for cities as well. I am proud to say, as your mayor, that the residents of this great city are today providing a permanent statement of our gratitude of those who have served. Thank you very much.
Federal Way was honored to welcome U.S. Senator Patty Murray as a special guest speaker. As the daughter of a World War II veteran, Senator Murray has spent her career fighting to make sure veterans get the care they deserve when they come home.
Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Senator Patty Murray. I want to let you know that she rearranged her schedule specifically to come to Federal Way to help us recognize and celebrate our nation's veterans. Please give a big Federal Way welcome to United States Senator Patty Murray.
Thank you so very much for that kind introduction to this great crowd. What an amazing group of people. I am just honored to be here today. Thank you to the City of Federal Way for inviting me to be a part of this most important day of remembrance and reflection. And thank you for this amazing and lasting tribute to our veterans. I am so proud to represent a state that is willing to do whatever it takes to support our men and women in uniform who are also our neighbors, our family, and our friends. And I'm proud to represent this state at what I believe has been really a critical decade in the treatment of our nation's veterans. It's a time when our older veterans are increasingly relying on the VA for care. But it is also a pivotal point for an entire generation of post-9/11 veterans who, after more than a decade of repeated deployments, stress on their family and personal relationships, and coping with the visible and invisible wounds of war, have been facing a challenging transition back home. And it is a challenge that all of us have been tasked with meeting. As you all know, it's no secret that back in the other Washington, there are some serious differences when it comes to many of the policies impacting our families. But one issue that brings this country together, one area that there truly should never be a partisan divide on, is supporting our nation's heroes. It brings us together because the American people understand that we have all made a promise to those who signed up to serve, and we owe it to them to deliver. It's a promise I have fought to keep as the daughter of a World War II veteran, a promise I know so many of you have openly embraced. And as we usher in a new Congress next year, it will be more important than ever that we continue working together across party lines to put our veterans and their families first. We are nearing the end of a conflict that has tested us as a nation, but one that has also showed the courage and strength of our veterans. These are the moments that in the past we have responded to well, as in the era that built the greatest generation, and ones where sadly our nation has stumbled. Now we are at a defining moment in the history of how we treat today's veterans. For many of us, particularly those of us who grew up with the Vietnam War, it's clear that we stand perilously close to repeating some of the same mistakes of the past. I am working every day to avoid that. The bipartisan VA reforms that Congress passed in August are starting to help alleviate the long waits for care at VA hospitals across the nation. Those reforms and the changes that are being made right here in the Puget Sound are important steps toward addressing the many issues we know exist within the VA system, but they cannot be the final steps. There are still serious challenges we must work together to address. Democrats, Republicans, and independents on behalf of our nation's heroes. 22 veterans still take their lives each and every day in this country. Thousands of veterans are still coping with sexual assault. And while the VA has made commendable progress, it will be an uphill battle as we work to eliminate veterans' homelessness and the claims backlog. But, like all of you here today, I believe that when it comes to caring for our nation's heroes, we cannot accept anything less than excellence. So as we raise this great flag here today, and as Federal Way takes this great step to rename this street and to show deep and lasting gratitude and honor our veterans, let us all join together in reaffirming the promise we've made to the men and women who answered the call of duty. And let us recommit to working each and every day, not just on the 11th of November, to fulfill that promise no matter what it takes. I am so proud to be your partner to fight in the United States Senate, and I am really grateful to this community for their unwavering support. So I want to thank Mayor Ferrell. I want to thank the City of Federal Way. You are doing something that is amazing. This crowd out here shows you how important it is and how much they support it. You should be very proud of yourselves. Thank you very much.
Mayor Ferrell extended a warm welcome to King County Councilmember Pete von Reichbauer, a U.S. Army veteran who has represented the Federal Way community for over 40 years in both the state legislature and county council.
Our next speaker is a very special guest and friend of Federal Way veterans and myself. I actually worked for him 25 years ago. Your King County Councilman Pete von Reichbauer has represented the Federal Way community for years. Federal Way, please join me in welcoming your King County Councilmember Pete von Reichbauer.
Thank you, Jim. Since we're here to honor veterans, I don't want to be the result of a casualty, so I'm going to keep my remarks very short. Thank you, Mayor Ferrell. Thank you, Senator Murray. Senator Murray, by the way, was working on Veterans Affairs before they were popular. She has been an incredible resource for any veteran in this United States, and particularly in the state of Washington. Please recognize her again. She was involved before the public and the publicity about the veterans' needs were there. She knew about the needs because she cares. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge Howard Schultz. For those veterans, you can get a cup of coffee today free. So thank you, Howard, because it's cold. The origin of this holiday stemmed from war, but thanks to the sacrifice of generations of Americans, we celebrate their service today in peace. It is important that we recognize the continued service of all our volunteer force. Today, in a faraway land, a young soldier whom you had never met and who has never heard of Federal Way, Washington, is standing guard. They're far from home, far from the friends and family of their favorite football team. If you ask them, they tell you that they're just doing their job. That young woman or man isn't seeking glory, isn't asking for much. He or she is just simply there for the love of country and the ability to give back to a land who has given them their freedom. Today we honor you and we honor them. Thank you.
Now I'd like to introduce my friend and City Council member Bob Selski. Bob, if you could make your way up here. Bob was first elected to the City Council in November 2011. Please welcome your City Council member, Bob Selski.
Thank you, Mayor Ferrell, for that kind introduction. And good morning, everybody, and thank you for being out here today on Veterans Day on a cold and blustery day. This is a wonderful show of support to our veterans and to our active duty soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who are currently serving as we celebrate this wonderful holiday. I'm proud of how our country has embraced the sacrifices made by veterans in recent years. Events similar to this are being held all over the country today to honor our veterans and their families who have also made great sacrifices. In 1974, I left Federal Way High School to serve in the Army. Many of my high school classmates, a few who are here with us today, and others from around the school district joined the service over the years. Federal Way has sent many of its citizens into the service and into harm's way. Indeed, our city has a very proud tradition of patriotism with citizens serving our country all over the world. And many veterans have chosen to make Federal Way their home after their years of service. We are truly fortunate to have so many veterans living in our community, many of which are here today, and we're happy that you're here celebrating with us. And some of our citizens who have served did not return home alive, paying the ultimate sacrifice. We must always remember these fallen heroes. I'm beyond proud that we are here today to witness the raising of the flag. This is a momentous occasion for Federal Way. The flag in this spot right here will be a beacon in our city forever to recognize veterans, a constant reminder that Federal Way cares in their honor. I too would like to thank Bob Kellogg, a proud citizen and Vietnam-era veteran, for having the vision of this great symbol, and to Mayor Ferrell, who embraced the idea to make it happen. I'm proud to introduce Rich Garmong, but mostly I'm proud to call Rich one of my best friends. Please welcome a decorated Federal Way veteran, Rich Garmong.
Well, thank you, Bob, for that more than generous introduction. And I want to thank Senator Murray for being here, Mayor Ferrell, Councilman Von Reichbauer, and all the dignitaries that are here. You know, it's with a lot of gratitude that I am standing in front of my community of Federal Way. I first got here 46 years ago as the son of a retiring Army officer and former Army nurse. It was a little daunting to leave the service as a family member, especially in 1969 when veterans weren't really thought too highly of. I'm sure we all remember those days. But Federal Way welcomed us. They welcomed us with open arms, and it wasn't long before I was a member of this community. But you know, in 2001, I had reached the age of retirement and had the ability to pull the plug until that day when this country faced that attack, unprecedented since Pearl Harbor, with 3,000 of our fellow citizens and service members died in those 3 attacks or attempted attacks. It caused me to pull my packet and stay in the military, and I chose to serve with the 81st as we went overseas, and I spent my time in Iraq. But when I came home, I got that same warm welcome that we got when I first came here. You know, after the attacks, this town was an amazing place. There were flags everywhere. The community was amazing, and they certainly made those of us who were in uniform feel welcome. Not too different than what we have today. As veterans, the fact that we're putting up this beautiful flag is a beacon to all of us veterans, to this community, knowing that we'll be welcomed here. This is a much different time than what was available to my father's generation, that many call the greatest generation. The need for technical skills and certifications are much more different than it was in that day. And for many of our veterans, it's a challenge. Our employers are doing phenomenal work in helping many of them make that transition. But many of those employers are hamstrung by rules and regulations that I know our political leaders are helping to eliminate, but more can be done. There's a great need for our veterans to enter into the community, bringing those skills such as showing up for work on time, making decisions in critical times under stressful situations, being task-oriented and mission-focused. Those are skills employers are always looking for. Anything that we can do to help our employers bring those skills into the workforce is something we should be looking forward to doing. I know that when my father's generation came home, they helped remake and rebuild this country. They were called the greatest generation for the abilities that they provided to our country. The infrastructures that we take for granted today, the roads, the bridges, the factories, and many, many more things, were built or conceived by their ideas and their work. This generation that comes home today is no different than that generation that came home after World War II. I think that Federal Way is doing an outstanding job of welcoming veterans, and I encourage you to continue to welcome our veterans home and to take advantage of our next greatest generation. It's my honor to introduce my fellow veteran, who will be our next speaker. Kimberly Shelton served in the United States Army from 1992 to 1995, serving in Operation Restore Hope in Mogadishu, Somalia in 1993, Operation Uphold Democracy in Haiti in 1994. Ladies and gentlemen, Kimberly Shelton.
Thank you, Rich. I'm very honored to be in this company, and I'm also very honored to be here representing the thousands of female veterans who have served our country since its inception. I agree. While women were only formally granted status in the military in 1948, we have served in many critical roles throughout history. Most recently, women are continuing to break barriers by serving in combat zones, leading fighter squadrons, and commanding naval vessels. My story is not as grand as these remarkable female leaders. Have you heard the term go to the Army or go to jail? Yeah, that's not my story either. I grew up in South Tacoma, granddaughter to a World War II Air Force gunner, daughter to an Air Force missile technician. I was involved in the Air Force Junior ROTC in high school, and somehow after all that, I ended up in the Army. You can imagine how well that went. I had a great childhood, lived in what I thought was a nice middle-class neighborhood, which I now know is Parkland, not the greatest neighborhood in the world. I got decent grades, but no one in my family had ever gone to college. So when it was time to graduate high school, I took a couple $100s that I had received in scholarship money, and I attempted to put myself through community college. When that money ran out, I was faced with the decision to either join the traditional workforce or to join the military. Joining the military was the single best decision I made in my life. I had an opportunity to see the world. My training and permanent duty station was on the East Coast, a place I'd never been. I deployed to Somalia for Operation Restore Hope and to Haiti for Operation Uphold Democracy, both places I had barely even heard of. I witnessed third world conditions firsthand that made me so thankful to be a citizen of this great country. I sincerely hope that my children choose to serve their country as their father and I did. I think it's important for today's youth to see the lives of the truly less fortunate and to appreciate all the opportunities we are afforded in the United States. When I was honorably discharged, I left as a much more mature woman and a much more dedicated student. I used my GI Bill to complete my bachelor's degree in business. I used that degree to gain employment with the City of Federal Way in 2007, and I've been working as the fitness coordinator at the Federal Way Community Center ever since. This flagpole is a great source of pride to me, not only because I'm a veteran, but because I live and work in a community that cares about the sacrifices our military makes for our freedom. I feel honored to work with the people who have planned this event today, and I drive along this road and by this flag on my way home every day. 320th will forever be known as Veterans Way to me, and I just want to say thank you from a veteran.
Now we've got the ceremony, POW-MIA ceremony for Todd Beamer, ROTC.
Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the center of our gathering. This table is set for prisoners of war and those missing in action from all wars. They're not with us today. Their chairs are empty, but are saved for their hoped return. Let us remember their absence. Let us remember the United States Army. The faded picture on the table is a reminder that they are missed very much and remembered by their families. Remember, as we look upon this empty table, do not remember ghosts in the past. Remember our comrades. Remember those who we depend on in battle. They depend on us to bring them home. They're the ones we love, who love life and freedom as we do. They will remember what we do. Please honor and remember them. Ladies and gentlemen, please join together in a moment of silence and the playing of taps in memory of those who lost their lives during their military service. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we ready to raise this flag?
During the flag raising, Veterans Way was closed to traffic and the police color guard carried the American flag across the road, followed by officials and hundreds of Federal Way residents.
Bright stars through the perilous spangled banner yet wave.
Mayor Ferrell, Senator Patty Murray, King County Councilmember Pete Von Reichbauer, and resident Bob Kellogg took turns raising the flag to its 60-foot height overlooking Federal Way.
That's great, yeah!
Honor Guard, uniformed personnel, present, ha! Order, ha!
Thanks, everybody. Great event. Have a happy Veterans Day. Thanks so much for coming out.